National Chess Master All Rats at chess.com, continuing my video series on the correspondence team match played between my video lessons group and the team CARPE DIEM. This encounter was played on board 46. Our man is keeganomahoney against MichaelGosselin. Rating advantage to us about mid-1900s versus mid-1800s. Let's have a look. There's not much I can do with this game because it ends abruptly on a timeout. White's going to lose on time on the 13th move. But let's just see what we can do with this game. Okay, White chooses the advanced variation, and honestly, I don't think this poses Black any problems at all. It's going to give Black a very easy game. I don't think it challenges Black by keeping the center closed. It's kind of like a French defense, except that Black gets the bishop out, and in return, he's able to get the c5 break that Black plays in a French defense advanced variation, but he's going to do it at a cost of a tempo. But the tempo doesn't really mean much. The other system similar to this is the Nimzovich defense, where the knight has gone to c6 and White's pushing by, and Black will get c5 in with one move, but it's going to take a while because this knight is blocking the c pawn. If Black even gets it in at all, it might be a dozen moves in. Anyway, like I say, I don't think this move challenges. What's a better move for White? Well, you can play the exchange variation, and then bishop d3, and Black has two good moves here: knight c6 and queen c7. Queen c7 takes bishop f4 away from White. You could play the Panov-Botvinnik attack, but I don't think Black has anything to fear about this if he's prepared, and should equalize the position. But what I think is just simply a better choice is go ahead and see what system Black is going to play. Okay, because the main line says to go here. Now, there's other systems I'll just mention briefly, other than pawn takes here. Now, for instance, is Black going to play the Nimzovich variation? This leads to some sharp encounters. You can take with the g pawn. This takes e5 away from White. White's often putting a knight in on e5. It gives Black some potential counterplay on this open file. Does create an isolated pawn here. It's double-edged, and this move here, e takes, pretty much leads to a dead even game. Again, you take an e5 away. White has a queenside pawn majority, but White just doesn't have enough. Black has no weaknesses really in his position at all. But make Black show what his line is, okay? Maybe Black's going to play the knight d7 line, or maybe he's going to play the bishop f5 line. Just have something prepared for those lines, and go for it. Just preserve a slight space advantage. Black's going to equalize against anything. There's nothing White can do no matter what White plays on the first move, especially in correspondence chess when all the resources are available to guarantee that. So anyway, I think this is a better choice. e5 comes in. And as I was saying, this gives Black no problems. He's playing like a French defense with his French bishop out and getting ready for c5. And just go through the moves here kind of quickly here. There's the c5 break. I think probably c3 is the better move. This bishop's a little awkward on this square, and I think Black exploits it fine. And now reinforcement, if White trades on f5, Black gets this knight into f5, where it's very nicely posted, and White can't kick it out necessarily with g4 because that weakened the h4 square, and now there's an annoying threat coming up, and if need be, the knight has a way to retreat. Okay, so let's just back it up. Well, let's just discuss this for a second. This is a nice square. This bishop's under pressure, which will mess up the White pawns, and White needs to lose time either moving it again or reinforcing it with a queen move. But Black should be fine out of here. e5 remains a target since White's pawn chain on the a1 h8 diagonal has been broken. Okay, let's back it up. He doesn't take on f5. He develops a piece, which is fine. White has 4 pieces developed. Black has none. But this pawn's a little bit weak. Let's see how it continues. And here, the first instinct I have is to retreat the knight. And the reason I want to do that is there's a certain amount of logic to keeping pieces on the board. When you exchange a piece, naturally your opponent's going to take it back, and you basically give him a free move. So let's look at the possible captures. Okay, if you take here, black's just going to instantly respond with this move. Okay, there's nothing wrong with taking on f5, but I'm going to make a point here. You'll see. The other choice is to take on c6. Now black gets to think: does he want to take with the knight, or does he want to take with the pawn? Probably going to take with the knight just to keep pressure on e5. But you're giving black a very easy choice. But the logic behind knight f3 and why I would consider this move first doesn't mean it's the best move. Here's what I want to teach you. By declining exchange, you're taking on a mindset that you think you can do more with your minor pieces on all your pieces than your opponent can do with his. That's the confidence I want to instill in you. Now the next point is that black's next move isn't so easy. When he's recapturing a piece, he knows what he's going to do. Now black has to stop and think, what's the best move? And you could actually get your opponent to spend clock time. Now in a correspondence game it's a little different, but the way people play correspondence chess by rushing moves, it's a perfect way to get your opponent to go wrong. If he's playing fast moves, chances are he's going to miss the very best move. And if it's an over-the-board game, and he does take his time, you've taken time off his clock, which may come in handy later. But I think the best move, I think that kind of refutes all this, is knight g6. And this pawn becomes very, very weak. White's going to have to maybe part with the bishop pair with bishop b5. I was looking at bishop d4 thinking of that, but that's just, it seems to start out okay for white. This develops the white queen, but let's see, a6. So you can't really stop and grab this pawn here on c2 because there's a very annoying check. So a6 to stop that, and now white maybe just castles queenside. So this is a possibility too. But and the reason I castled queenside was to activate the rook and hold on to this pawn on c2. Ideally, I'd like to castle kingside. But after rook c8, black is prepared to develop that bishop with tempo, and there's a threat on a pawn on f2 as well as getting castled and getting ready to launch his own attack. So, rook c1 is kind of ugly, but it might stop some of these shenanigans. Okay, now castling kingside keeps f2 hunkered down. Bishop f5 or c5, queen back to d2, and let's see, queen c7, and maybe suddenly black is getting somewhere here. So maybe knight f3, my first instinct, isn't the best move. But how do you know unless you analyze? Well, you don't, so you have to analyze. Okay, so let's bring it back to the position. The other alternative is to play f4 here. And, since white has broken the pawn chain, he didn't play c3. Doesn't have a pawn chain here. e5 requires some attention. It's not uncommon in a French defense for white to often lose that pawn if he's not careful with the way he captures back on d4. This shuts the dark squared bishop in. Maybe white can play for something, maybe play for g4, maybe not. That does weaken his own king side a little bit. But, it's something to sit there and analyze, and it's kind of beyond the scope of what I can do. But anyway, what white does is, let me find the right spot in the notes. He doesn't take, let's see, white didn't play f3, knight bc6. It's a problem with chess.com. In every line you play on the board, it nests it within the PGN screen to the right that you can't see that's off the video, and you have to look through this to find what happened, and it replaces the main line with the new variation. So I think he played knight takes f5. No, he played knight cb5. There it is. Yeah, there it is. This is what white played, threatening a check. Okay, So you really have to dig, because all of a sudden it made F4 the main line, which is wrong. The main line should stay. Maybe when they get version 3, they'll have that fixed. But this costs white a pawn. And let's see what happens. And black does have to suffer some double pawns, but for what it's worth, he is a pawn ahead. And after c3 and castles, white lost on time. Now, these pawns aren't the strongest, but this pawn can be held, and white really has this bishop is not useful at all attacking the king side. This is white's only trump, play on the isolated queen pawn, and right now he can't do it because he'll have it chopped off. Black's just for choice here, not enough to win, but white hasn't proven the advantage of the first move. So, long-range prospects, maybe 20% winning chance black, 10% winning chance white, 70% draw. I don't know. Let's bring up the other game because this one's over. And this was pretty interesting, at least the start. Okay. Started at move 2. This starts out as a Queen's Gambit accepted, and it becomes a Chigorin defense to the Queen's Gambit, and very similar to an Alban. Okay, here I think white commits a serious mistake. I think it's just simply wrong to take on this square, because now white loses castling privileges. And now, like I say, we're in the Chigorin variation of the Queen's Gambit, and I'll show you how we can reach this position in just a moment. Because it's funny, as I've reached this position a couple times over on ICC and Blitz, and I've got them in my library somewhere on entries number 62 and 67. I won 2 quick games out of this opening. Now, what I played in similar was castle, and then white brought his king back, and then I took this pawn. And both times black took here, and suddenly, whoops, little checkmate. Ouch. But that's, 5-minute games. Anything can happen in those. Those don't really count for anything. But we'll talk about this a little bit more. Let me see, how did those happen? Let's bring this back. Okay. D4, D5, C4, knight C6, E3, which is kind of a passive move. Now E5. Let's see. Excuse me. Knight F3. Not sure how these happened. Let's see. White's going to have to take here at some point. But I know on this that this is the move here. And that doesn't happen in our game, does it? The black pawn never got to D4. Or did it? My memory sometimes, short-term memory is sometimes very sad. Let's see. No, it doesn't, because it's going to take on C4. So let's back this up slightly. Let's see. Maybe it comes out of this line. Yeah, I think it comes out of this line. Now here. Here we go. Yeah, it's out of this line. There's a risky line to play E5. Let's see. E5, is this it? Somehow, I think it got to this. Now here we're getting the same position. Yet here, white can take with the bishop, so I'm doing something wrong here. I'm trying to reach this position. Let's see, bishop G4. E3, E5. Pawn takes. Maybe he takes here. Maybe the king never got castle. Maybe it happened. No, because there was a pin. Yeah. Okay, this is it. I was very close. And now the blunder comes. So there's never a check. All right. That's how the game's ended. Okay. So back to what we got into here. I think castling with check was better than knight takes e5, uh, simply because uh, of this thing, this trick of a back rank mate. Now, what's white going to do? Well, the rules say he has to get out of check. Where are you going to go? If you come up to c2, all of a sudden black can play bishop f5 check, and this king has to step out. And this could get dangerous in a hurry. I'm not going to try to find a forced mate, but yeah, this is getting kind of sticky here. Where's that king going to go? There's all kinds of possibilities. We can sit and look at this thing for 2 or 3 hours and work out some nice mates. Just putting that king on c3, even though the queens are off, every other piece is on the board. And if you look at in my blog series, I have a couple of brilliancy games up. One that won a prize, which was eligible for. The other, there was no prize, but it was nonetheless a brilliancy. I gave up my queen for 3 minor pieces and a pawn, or queen and a pawn for 3 minor pieces, and chased his king around the board with my minor pieces. So I wouldn't want to play this as up there as white. So after this check, you can come up to e2, but the pin persists. You gain a tempo here on this bishop. You cover f7, and the bishop's not able to come back to e2. So, and then you maintain this pin for what it's worth. So white's pretty much forced, I think, to play king e1, and you can go about your business and just collect your pawn, and here we can follow the logic. Let's leave the pieces on. Let's just bring this knight back to c6 and let white catch up. See, now white can't castle kingside. Remember, his king is moved. So I think this position is highly favorable for black. No need to make any exchanges. And the other alternative is after this check is don't even worry about this pawn. You don't need it. This knight is tied down. It can't move. There's a back rank mate. Let's see. Do we have to cover this? Maybe. Let's see. Black could try, activate his pieces. The point being, if pawn takes to maintain a pawn ahead, develop another piece. White could try this move, but that's just going to give black an open file. This looks terrific for black. But there's nothing wrong with playing knight takes e5 here, but black doesn't castle with check. He takes the knight takes the pawn directly. And another safe and sound alternative is just let that pawn sit and go around with this maneuver and collect it later. It's not going anywhere. But we'll go with what white does, and now comes castle with check. And white's just starting to step into pins. And again, this is the type of position that you just want to have as black. Black captured on f3. I don't think that goes anywhere, seeing minor pieces come off the board. Again, let's just keep pieces on. See, white still can't castle. He's going to have to do it by hand. And it's not an easy task. This bishop is in the way of the king coming up, so the bishop would have to move, so the king can come up to e2, so the rook can swing over, the king can come back. Conversely, on the other side, the king will have to come up at some point. One of these pieces has to move on d2 or b2, so that the bishop can get out, so that the rook can swing over, so the king can go back to the back rank. Well, that's a lot of moves, and black has a lot of moves in response. Let's try one of them. Let's play b3. Let's just try something. Well, here's what I'm just going to pick moves at random. Hey, I'm going to keep this pin alive. Okay. Now bishop b2, all of a sudden, whoops, bishop takes. And suddenly white can resign. Well, maybe he's going to get something back here. Let's see. But you're going to lose this guy, so you might as well... Well, I don't know. Let's see. Takes with check. King here. f6. Stops that. a3. Let's see. Well, you can just play rook takes here. and enjoy the advantage of 2 minor pieces for the rook. And this should be a winning game for black, even if white lops this knight off. So I don't know what's possible in that position. I just looked at something, but I go on instinct. I know that when you have an uncastled king as a target, that it's going to take it a long time to break all the pins and get the king off the back rank and get castle by hand. So let's try this move instead. Since we could not protect d2, let's get some protection over there. But that just delays castling queens, trying to castle by hand queenside. It allows immediate check for what it's worth. Let's just develop a piece. This is what I always do. I don't know if it's the best move, but let's just develop a piece. Okay, white's gonna do the same. And let's see. Let's go develop another piece. Okay, bishop comes to b2. Now there's no trick on d2 anymore. But, black's got an ideal position here. Everything he has is developed. His pawn structure is perfect. The board is open. His bishops are better. And, this isn't a forced line. Probably if you sit down and analyze it for a while, you can find a better line. I mean, I can't sit here and show you the best line. Nobody can. Well, maybe Magnus Carlsen can sit here and show this, like, bang, bang, bang. Well, we're not on that level. We're trying to get to this higher level. So this is how you improve in correspondence chess. You analyze the game just like I'm doing here. I probably missed good moves for white. I probably missed better moves for black. I don't know. But this would have been a better continuation for black and very well could have led to victory. So anyway, let's find what he did do. See, bishop e2, there was a castle with check. And then he took on f3. And as you'll see, even though black is better, white's able to just hold on. See, now there's no knight to come in and bother this. One less minor piece to chase that king. The pressure on d2 is lifted because we don't have enough attackers on d2. We didn't get this bishop there. And white has cleared squares to be able to defend it, if need be. Okay, so black's ahead in development, and white's trying to get his pieces out. Now, black develops a piece with a threat. White counters. This rook is ugly. Now, let's see. First thing that comes to mind, what about bishop h3? Well, maybe black runs over here and tries to generate some counterplay. But on g7, but let's see. After g6... Did white just bungle this pawn? Could be. Rook here, and then the bishop comes back and back here. It's ugly. It's ugly for white. I like black a lot there. That might have been a good continuation for black. Okay, so again, I can't analyze everything, but I can show you how to analyze. Just look for moves with a purpose, and that's what this does. This gets ready to double the rooks, keep the bishop from moving to b2 to protect that knight. So he moves the knight with tempo. Now he develops the bishop, and more pieces are coming off the board. And I think the game is as the pieces are coming off, there's no long-lasting advantage for black. White has basically it does have two weaknesses. The double pawns in h2. That's the requisite to win a game, but you need two weaknesses. But black doesn't really have a way to exploit them. All the firepower has come off. He's down to 2 minor pieces, and white's able to finally start using those minor pieces. And I think the game is essentially even, and will end up in a draw. Both sides are eliminating pawns from the other. Black is temporarily a pawn ahead, but he can't stay there. See, there it goes. And as more pawns come off, the game becomes more and more drawn. And now, white declines the bishop exchange here in just a moment. Keeps it on the board so as not to go into a tricky knight and pawn ending. More pawns are coming off. And, Black one time had a completely mobile pawn formation. Now half of them are gone and he has no connected pawns. So both sides have plenty of weak pawns, but just not enough firepower here to win the game. Black wins a pawn but loses it right back. And now let's see. Black's temporarily up a pawn, but White has a nice little sacrifice here, which hastens a draw. Okay, now there's Black can mate with a bishop and knight, but the problem is White has a bishop, and the pawn is not going anywhere. Black can stop that, but Black just doesn't have enough firepower to win this game. And after knight takes and pawn takes, they agree to a draw. Let's see. There was a little trick in here. It wasn't much. Just want to try to remember that. Let's see. It was after the knight got over to a2. Okay. Let's see. The knight's under fire. This puts the bishop under fire. Oh, okay, yeah. This move, bishop g4. The idea is that Black is going to try to see if he can get anywhere with this pass pawn. All that cedes White one. White can play this tricky move. Excuse me. And after knight takes, something similar to the game. Now you got to discover on the knight, and this game is clearly drawn. Black can't penetrate. And White gets the king over in time. And even though Black is going to win that pawn, he's going to lose his own back. And there's your draw. Okay, so a couple interesting games. Hopefully it was entertaining for you. I want to thank everyone who watches this. The match is winding down. I'll put a report on the next video that I have to make. But there's currently only 4 games left on 4 boards. So I thank you so much for your time. Take